The first shell lands before anyone breathes. A flat punch in the earth, a slap of air across the face, gravel ticking against helmets. The team freezes for a half second, then the calm voice in the observation post starts the count. 1 Mississippi. 2. The next impact walks closer. Time stretches, and with it comes the pattern. That is the hook, not the blast. The rhythm. The mortar is speaking, and we have to learn its language before it writes our names into the ground. We are set low in a shallow scrape at the edge of the tree line. Branches knit a dark ceiling. The world beyond is a sheet of pale fields broken by hedges and a thread of road. The assistant observer steadies the binoculars, elbows braced, while I press a knuckle into the map, feeling the paper snag on calluses. Wind is from the west, light. Air is cool, sound carries. Every detail matters because sound is our wire back to the hidden crew. A mortarman somewhere out there works a tube with metronomic focus. We never see him. We hear his work. A muted thump, delicate as a heartbeat. A whisper of flight that seems to curl around the trees. Then the arrival, hard and decisive, dirt in the mouth, a ringing pause. The interval between thump and impact gives us range. The contrast and loudness between left ear and right gives us bearing. We are building a fix out of pressure waves and nerve. The next round clips a wall to our front and peppers the ditch. The observer calls bearing. I repeat it. The assistant runs the pencil along the protractor, snaps a line across the grid. I mark the estimate of distance and cut a second line from a fallback listening point we used at first light. Where the lines cross is not a certainty, it is a suspicion with edges. But suspicion can be enough to move steel. Another thump. The team leans into the hush between cause and effect. For seconds. 5. Impact short and right. The crew is adjusting. The pattern is a ladder. They climb 2 rungs, pause, and correct for wind. I picture the circular base plate sinking into soil, the sight level, the loader with sleeves rolled above strong wrists. I do not hate them. I simply need to end their work. We call a quick shift of our own, sliding 3 body lengths to a secondary pit. Fresh angles, cleaner audio. The assistant swaps binoculars for the old rangefinder. Glass and brass, heavy and honest. He reads numbers without tremor. I push them into the map. The spot tightens. Fire mission ready. Not yet. 2 more data points. The next shell slams into the hedgerow and coughs smoke. The sound arrives sharp, almost metallic off the stones, telling us the path has bent. I adjust the bearing 3 degrees. Now the crossing of lines sits on a copse near the road kink. That kink is gold. It cannot be anywhere else. We key the net and pass the coordinates, methodical and cold, words marching like drill. Batteries reply. Stand by. Eyes back to the tree line. The mortar speaks again. We answer with silence, counting, measuring, learning its last whisper before our own voice arrives. And when our guns finally speak, the sound is vast and rolling, a tide that lifts the earth, and the map in my hands feels suddenly very light. The first impact arrives like a hammer on wet earth. A dull thud, a slap of fragments, a breath of dust. The team does not flinch. They lock into the chain. The observer drops to a knee and calls the time of impact, bearing to smoke, an estimated distance from sound lag. The recorder repeats each element, loud and steady, so that stress cannot blur the numbers. The section leader draws a quick cross on the map, 1 line for the observed bearing, 1 for the wind, then marks the likely fan of fire. The second round lands farther down the hedgerow. Pattern recognized. A walk of fire. The mortar crew is correcting. That means they are still in place. That means there is a window. The tree line looks calm from a distance, but the field tells another story. Leaves drift the wrong way. A bird flushes late. The team notes these small betrayals. The observer sweeps with vintage optics, glass that bites into the light and shows the shimmer of heat. A crease in the grass. A man in a crouch. Nothing more. Time from first impact is under 90 seconds. Math takes over. Bearing from the main observation post is entered. A second observer on the ridge transmits his own bearing. 2 lines meet and a grid square is born. Range is guessed from terrain features. The section leader chooses a point 10 meters behind the suspected pit to account for habitual underestimation. He shapes an initial fire mission in his head before he speaks, because extra words cost seconds and seconds cost blood. Radios wake. Fire control receives target data and reads it back. The gun line is already aligned from previous tasks, so only minor shifts are needed. The team hears the distant cough of their own tubes. Friendly rounds are in flight. The leader orders the team to stay low. The enemy will hear the outgoing ripple and may displace. The observer watches for the twitch in the hedgerow that gives away a crew that wants to run and cannot decide which way. Friendly rounds arrive. The first impact stamps the far edge of the grid square. Short adjust, left 2-0. The order rides the net without drama. The second salvo catches the hedgerow and throws a sheet of leaves. The observer sees one figure fall and another drag a tube by the base plate. Add 1-0, fire for effect. The guns answer with a full package. The hedgerow vanishes under a chain of blasts. Dust lifts and hangs. The enemy crew tries to crawl out along a shallow ditch, but the steel arrives ahead of them. The pattern tightens. The mortar tube lies on its side. The firing stops. Silence returns slowly, as if it must push through the ringing in every ear. The observer holds the glass steady for 1 full minute. No movement. Fire control requests assessment. The leader reports likely neutralization, damage to crew and equipment, area unsafe for further movement. He marks the position with a black cross and a timestamp. The team packs gear with deliberate hands. The chain holds until the very last entry is logged. A new task may come within the hour. The next hunt may begin with the same dull thud on wet earth. The team will not be surprised. They know how the chain begins, and they know how to end it. The patrol halts at the edge of the field where the grass gives way to a ragged wall of birch and pine. The mortar crew is out there somewhere, trading distance for cover, waiting for another chance to walk rounds onto the road. To find them, the team must first disappear. The leader kneels and studies the ground. No skyline exposure. No brittle twigs. No bright soil kicked up by boots. He traces the sun's path in his head and watches the wind push the leaves. The observation post must see without being seen, hear without being heard, and survive the first mistake. They crawl in on wrists and knees, bodies flattened, gear wrapped in dull cloth. Faces are broken up with ash and mud. Helmets carry brush from this exact stand of trees. No shape is allowed to be a circle, a straight line, or a clean edge. The camouflage is not a costume. It is an argument with the brain of the enemy spotter who hunts for patterns. The team intends to win that argument. A low mound under a deadfall becomes the hide. One person cuts a narrow firing slit through grass with a knife, not scissors, so the ends stay ragged. Another presses a ground sheet into the soil until it matches the color and shine. The tripod for the glass goes in last, legs wrapped, feet buried so metal never flashes. The field of view is drawn on a range card. Near hedge, broken stump, roof line beyond the mill. Each is given a number, a distance, a bearing. Silence is built, not found. Radios are checked on vibrate alerts only. The antenna is bent along a sapling and painted with dirt. The spotter wipes the lens and breathes on it once to fog the glass, then cleans it again. He waits for the forest to settle, for bird calls to return, for the insects to resume their work. Only then does he begin to scan. He does not sweep. He breaks the tree line into small windows and lets each window come to him. Shadows that move with the wind are ignored. Shadows that move against the wind are memorized. A branch that bounces twice after a gust is a clue. A puff of dust where there is no path is a clue. He times the drift of smoke from a farmhouse chimney and uses it as a clock for the air. The team builds the triangle. One observer measures bearing from the road marker. Another measures from the hay shed. The leader marks both lines on the map with a grease pencil, hands steady, breath slow. Where the lines meet is suspicion. Where suspicion repeats is a target. A crow lifts from the trees. 2 beats later, a dull thump rolls across the valley. The spotter does not flinch. He watches the tree line and the gaps between tree trunks. He waits for a flicker of heat haze, for the faint gray ribbon of propellant smoke slipping upward where the canopy thins. He counts the seconds to impact and notes the arc of the incoming. The mortar speaks, and the forest answers. The observation post is now alive. The camouflage has done its work. The hunt is underway. The first round arrives like a fist through the air. A dull thump rolls across the tree line, then a rising howl as the shell cuts the distance. The crew freezes only for a heartbeat. Helmets tip, mouths open, ears searching. The world narrows to the calculus of survival. Impact. Soil leaps. A flat crack slaps the chest, followed by a pressure that crawls into the teeth. The shock line tells more than fear. If the slap is sharp and dry, the fall angle is steep and the tube is close. If the blast is round and heavy, the arc was long and the team is further back. The mind starts the clock without words. Count the seconds between arrival sound and burst. Convert distance by habit. The map opens on a knee. Smoke drifts in two colors. The white-gray pillar marks the burst point and the wind. The darker ring clings to the ground, curling along the micro ridges of the field. If the smoke column bends hard left, the wind is set that way, and the enemy mortar is correcting right now to chase the adjustment. The observer notes spread and symmetry. A tight, circular dust halo means near-perfect fuse timing. A sloppy crescent means a graze. Both are clues to range and fuse discipline. Fragments begin to fall with a metallic hiss. Their spread sketches the angle of descent. Long, shallow arcs scatter fragments forward. Steep plunges send them in near circles. A trained ear sorts the music of steel. Thick chunks that thud into wet ground suggest larger caliber. High-pitched sleet suggests light bombs and thin casings. Each sound adds weight to the plot on paper. The team reads the trees like an instrument. Leaves show the wind at different layers. Smoke at knee height points one way, the top branches another. The enemy crew is doing the same math across the field, working a bracket, walking rounds onto a road or a hedgerow. The observers must steal time. One begins a quick back azimuth from the shock front. Another watches the smoke rise and times the rate of climb to estimate air stability. A third checks the soil grain at the crater edge, looking for the fan that points back along the trajectory. The second round lands short. Good. That means the first was long, and the crew is bracketing. The tempo of the hunt is visible now. 10, 12, 14 seconds between firing and burst. That cadence suggests a well-drilled team and a tube that is already sandbagged into place. The observers translate seconds into meters and meters into a bearing. A finger traces contour lines toward a fold in the ground that hides both muzzle flash and movement. There is no romance here, only discipline. Here, measure, mark. The first impact is not chaos. It is a message in pressure, dust, and smoke. Decode it fast, or the next line of punctuation will be written in blood. The first blast folds the tree lean into a ripple of dust and bark. Our stopwatch starts. The speed of sound turns into a ruler in the air. 1 second, maybe a little more. That delay is range, not guessed, but measured. My compass settles. The needle shakes, then calms. I call the bearing to the plume. 2 observers to my left and right do the same. 3 thin lines are about to become a point. We breathe in short counts. Wind presses smoke into a low sheet. A second round lands, 50 meters short of the first. The mortar crew is adjusting. Their rhythm is our doorway. I plant the map board on my knee, pencil like a metronome. From my position, I draw a line along the bearing. From the second observation post, a line of its bearing. From the third, another. Where the lines cross is not a theory. It is a place with trees and roots and men who believe they are unseen. Range comes from the sound lag and from the scale of the map. Bearings come from compass, from sighting along a finger that does not shake. Fix comes from 3 lines that choose each other. I speak the grid. It is clean, whole numbers, no guesswork. Correct for declination, correct for parallax, correct for the small pride that wants to round in your favor. The enemy does not care about your pride. The enemy cares about whether you are fast. A third impact walks the pattern forward. The crew is bracketing. They have found something they want to hit. I adjust for wind. The smoke is moving left to right. The plume leans. I shave a few mils off the bearing. The nearest observer confirms. The far observer reports a slightly different angle. I average with purpose, not with hope. The triangle tightens. The pencil digs into damp paper. I mark likely dead ground where a base plate would hide. Mortars love shallow reverse slopes, tree clusters with narrow clearings, drainage lines that are hard to see from above. I circle 2 micro locations inside the fix. The stopwatch runs again. Time between shots lengthens. They are packing or they are cooling. Either way, it is our turn. Fire mission request goes up the net. I keep my voice steady. The battery will be fast if we are exact. I pass grid, target description, method of engagement, method of fire, and control. First salvo inbound. We count. We listen. The air delivers an answer that no one can mistake. The correction is small. Left by 1, add by 50. The next salvo arrives like a door slamming shut on a dark room. Silence returns in uneven pieces. Birds start before men do. I log the final grid and the time. Bearing, range, fix. 3 words that turn chaos into coordinates, and coordinates into a place that will no longer throw steel at strangers. The observation post wakes with cold glass against the eye. The world is a lattice of reticles, mill marks, and smudges of smoke that bloom and fade above the tree line. The first impact lands short, a dull thud carried by the wind, and the second lands closer. The team speaks in clipped sequence, one calling mills on the binocular reticle, one reading compass bearings, one sketching lines on a grid map board taped to a crate. The old optics force discipline. No stabilization, no digital zoom, only steady hands and a steady mind. A bearing is locked. Range is estimated by vertical mills against a known height in the tree line. The spotter breathes, counts, and converts mills to meters with a pencil chart laminated years ago. The map man drags a grease pencil across paper that already carries a history of smears. A thin line marches from the observation post across contour lines to a possible firing pit. The third impact lands, and dust drifts like ash. Now the pattern speaks. The rounds walk left to right. The observer shifts to a second vintage glass, a scuffed artillery scope with a worn spirit level, and confirms the lay of the ground. Modern tech hums beside the crate. A rugged tablet wakes to a blue grid and satellite imagery. The position of the observation post snaps to a precise coordinate. The tiny white roads, the hedgerows, the irrigation ditches, all sit beneath a transparent layer of military grid reference. The grease pencil line is mirrored by a digital bearing. The tablet calculates an intersection with a second line derived from the mill range. 2 worlds overlap. The pencil gives intuition. The tablet gives certainty. The wind changes and the sound arrives later. The team adjusts the speed of sound table for current temperature. The time between muzzle report and impact is measured on a wrist chronograph, then fed into the range estimate as a cross-check. The tablet accepts the value and tightens the confidence ring from a field to a thicket. The vintage scope rides the edge of the tree line. A brief flicker of heat ripple betrays a disturbed patch of grass. The optic does not care about pixels. It cares about pattern and habit and the way crews hide where they should not. A correction is made. The grid reference is read aloud once, then again. The fire mission sheet is filled with block letters. The old and the new agree within a handful of meters. That is enough. The call goes out with deliberate cadence. Metal answers the math. The counter battery arc climbs and disappears. The team stays on glass. The first splash shreds the far hedge. The tablet redraws the circle smaller. The second splash silences the sound between impacts. The third brings stillness that feels wrong after so much counting. The pencil line is underlined. The tablet record is saved. The crew erases nothing. The lesson remains on paper and in memory. Glass teaches patience. Grids deliver proof. Together they shorten the time between a whisper in the trees and the moment the trees go quiet. The first impact is never alone. A second follows, then a third, each one stepping across the ground like boots on a ladder. The pattern is a voice. It tells who is shooting, how they are trained, how many tubes are in the line, and how well their leader controls the fire. Listen to the interval. 4 to 6 seconds between impacts suggests one crew working a single tube at a steady rhythm. A shorter, uneven interval hints at 2 tubes alternating, one loading while the other fires. Long pauses mean corrections, coolant time for a hot barrel, or a search for a new target. Watch the geometry. A straight line that advances or falls back is classic walking fire. Elevation nudged in small increments to feel for range. A lateral sweep left to right is traverse, the crew chasing movement or raking a trench. A tight cluster that tightens further means the bipod is biting, the base plate is seated, and the gunner has settled. A loose cross or box pattern signals haste, inexperience, or soft ground under the plate. Precision speaks of drills done many times in the dark. Crater signatures add detail. Elongated lips point back toward the firing azimuth, giving a rough back bearing when compasses and radios are silent. Depth and spall tell the caliber. Shallow bowls and light fragmentation whisper of small bombs. Deep cones and heavy shards announce a heavier tube with plenty of charge increments. Fuse action matters. Many airbursts over one lane suggest a pre-planned setting. A sudden switch to point detonation means the crew reacted to foliage or hard cover. Count the total rounds in a minute. A disciplined crew with one tube can hold 8 to 12 when fresh and calm. A flurry that peaks then fades may mean the ammunition number is running hard or the smoke man is winded. A pause exactly at the 10th round may reveal a leader who checks corrections at fixed counts. If the pattern shifts after every 5th impact, the fire controller is bracketing by rule. Now stitch the clues together. 2 alternating intervals, a steady lateral sweep, a base plate that firms up after the 6th round, and a correction pause at 10. That is likely a 2-tube section with a competent leader, decent training, and a fixed fire plan. The sweep bounds match 50-meter ticks on the map grid. The final cluster hugs a hedgerow where a trail meets a field. That is a likely hide and a likely exit. This is how patterns turn into people. A rhythm becomes a gunner with burned hands. A pause becomes a leader with a grease pencil over a damp map. A lateral sweep becomes a section digging a pit beside a cart track. Read the rounds, and a crew stops being smoke and echo. It becomes a target you can find. The first round is the mask. Dirt lifts, leaves tremble, and the shock ripples through the treeline. Before the echo fades, the crew is already working. One man drags the ammunition crate closer. One steadies the bipod. The gunner checks elevation and deflection with deliberate hands. They came in silent. They must leave the same way. Speed is survival. A mortar that lingers becomes a beacon. The crew fires a short, ruthless sequence. 2 or 3 for adjustment. 3 to 5 for effect. Each tube sings for seconds, not minutes. The assistant gunner rides the recoil, keeping the baseplate seated. The loader counts breath and rhythm so that each round leaves at the same interval. The gunner watches the sight bubble and the aiming stakes. Small corrections only. Precision that fits inside the span of a heartbeat. They do not chase perfection. They chase time. Counter-battery teams listen and measure. The clock starts with the first impact. Sound ranging, flash spotting, and experience narrow the grid with every shot. The longer the crew stays, the tighter the noose becomes. So the section leader calls last round early. The tube cools. The forest exhales. Hands move to carry positions. Displacement is a drill. The sight comes off. The bipod folds. The baseplate heaves free of the ground with a wet crack. Every man knows the order of movement. Ammunition first, then the tube, then the rest. They do not speak. They do not leave a trail if they can help it. Shell casings and packing are pocketed. Footprints are brushed. The new position is already chosen. 50 to 100 meters is often enough. Sometimes more. Always irregular. Never predictable. The next hide favors cover and a clean backblast area. Overhead branches. Shadow over silhouette. A lane to withdraw if needed. The gunner resets stakes and checks the compass. He confirms bearing to the known reference. The leader cross-checks with a grease pencil on a laminated sketch. The loader opens a single crate, not 3. Less noise. Less shine. Always less. A new burst begins. Short again. Fast again. The pattern appears random to a distant ear, but it is planned. The crew alternates between positions that complement each other. One is slightly higher for better arcs. One is deeper for better concealment. Each is prepared with shallow scrapes for the plate and marks for the bipod feet. The tube returns to a known 0 in seconds. When the enemy finally answers, the rounds walk through the trees the crew has already left. Branches snap. Soil erupts. The air tastes metallic. The team is moving to the next point, bent under the weight of steel and fatigue. Their safety is not luck. It is discipline. It is rehearsed movement, controlled fire, and the humility to leave before pride demands one more shot. The first impact leaves a shallow crater in the orchard and a deep cavity in every chest. Dirt settles. Leaves drift down like ash. The observer steadies the glass and forces his breathing to match the beat of the second hand. Bearing locked. Range estimated. A fix is drawn across the map with pencil and a gloved thumb. The crew in the trees will fire again. They always do. Precision begins with calm. He keys the handset and delivers a clean, methodical call for fire. Grid to the nearest meter. Target type. Mortar section with probable 2 tubes. Shell high explosive. Fuse quick. Adjust fire. The words move from observation post to fire direction center, where a quiet room brightens with purpose. Slide rules. Tables. A practiced rhythm. The battery commander gives a single nod. Guns prepare to speak. Data rides the wire to the gun line. Elevation. Deflection. Powder charge. Quadrant. Time of flight. Sections move like a drill that has become instinct. Breeches open. Charges seat. Rounds are indexed. The sky and the soil hold their breath. Steel goes up with a cough that becomes a promise. The observer watches the far hedgerow. Time stretches thin. A puff in the canopy. He reads the burst and the wind in a single glance. Over. Left. Correct by hundreds, not thousands. He keeps his voice steady and his words exact. Add 200. Right 30. Same fuse. Same shell. Fire when ready. The second volley lands tight to the stump line. Bark spins in the air. Figures scatter. The enemy crew breaks cover and sprints toward a shallow dip in the field. The observer captures the movement on the map and translates motion into math. Drop 100. Left 10. Battery 1 round. The order moves. The guns reply. Shrapnel combs the dip. The observer sees a tube collapse, then a man dragging another by the webbing. The mortar position breathes panic. He does not. He changes method. Fire for effect. Battery 6. The FDC confirms. Green lights ripple along the guns. The horizon becomes a strobe of white impacts that erase the trillion one square at a time. Silence returns in fragments. A delayed detonation thumps from deep earth. Then only crows. The observer studies the target area and the pattern of blackened soil. No fresh movement. No new smoke. He calls the battle damage assessment with the same steady cadence. 1 tube destroyed. 1 tube abandoned. Crew suppressed. Secondary explosion observed. He signs the map, folds it along the creases, and sets it beside the range card. The handset rests on his knee. Precision is not a trick. It is discipline measured in seconds and meters. It is the chain that runs from a calm voice on a cold hill to hot barrels on a distant ridge. When the call is clean, the steel lands true. And when the steel lands true, men on the line live to see the next morning. The first impact lands short of the road, a hard thud that lifts dust and light debris into a slow-motion cloud. It is not the closest round of the night, but it is the loudest because everyone now understands the geometry. The enemy mortar is feeling for the seam where our lines brush against the edge of the village. The village is not empty. Curtains hang in windows. A bicycle leans against a fence. Somewhere a dog will not stop barking. Every decision from this moment must balance 2 fires, ours and theirs, with civilians standing between. The observer steadies the glass on a fence post and counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. The smoke column pauses, twists, and thins. The echo rolls back through the trees. Time between impacts gives a rough range. Bearing is already marked with a grease pencil on the map board. He calls the grid with a flat voice that refuses drama. The fire direction center copies and does the math. A new line of drift appears across the paper, bending toward a stand of reeds along the creek. The next round drops deeper into the village. Shutters leap, a door swings, a figure runs. The observer swallows the spike of fear and adds 2 more elements to the problem. Wind pushing from the west. Roof lines that will channel fragments like alleyways of steel. He asks for a shift that will keep our fire inside a narrow cone. He repeats the rules of engagement. He speaks each word clearly. He accepts the weight. Gunners load with hands that no longer shake. The tube speaks, a single deliberate shot that must warn and wound without killing the people we are here to protect. Everyone on the net holds breath. The round breaks in a fallow field beyond the creek, a clean splash of soil. The enemy crew hesitates. The hesitation is the opening. The mortar coughs again. The observer hears the launch in the distance, a hollow pop carried on the wind. He traces the arc with the mind's eye, not with hope, but with angles. He shifts 100 meters left, short by 50, deflection -2. He asks for air burst with the lowest possible height of function to cut the enemy crew without throwing steel into the homes. He repeats the civilian warning. He repeats the friendly's mark. He repeats the danger close. Our round arrives like a hammer wrapped in rain. It bursts above the reeds. There is motion, then less motion. The enemy replies with a final shot that lands in the road, a scream of shrapnel that the camera does not glamorize. Dust settles. Voices rise from the village. A child cries. A man shouts a name. The observer lowers the glass. He reads the street like a ledger. No fire. No collapse. Movement at the creek. He requests ceasefire and a quick assessment patrol with medics at the edge of the houses. The radio crackles. Approval comes. The team moves, slow and careful, rifles low. The camera stays back, watching the space between choices. By dawn, the village is quiet. The bicycle is still there. The dog is finally silent. The reeds along the creek hold the imprint of the enemy position, a scatter of casings, a shallow pit, a burnt cloth. The lesson is written in the ground. Precision is not a boast. Precision is a duty when friend and stranger live under the same arc of steel. The barrage fades. Air settles into a heavy stillness that feels louder than impact. The team moves at a deliberate pace, boots testing the ground where fragments still hiss. First rule of battle damage assessment: do not become the second wave of casualties. The section lead halts them at the tree line, sets outer security, and opens the notebook that survived the barrage inside a plastic sleeve. They start with craters. Fresh earth is pale and damp, lips kicked high toward the direction of travel. The assessor measures blast radius, counts shrapnel bites on trunks, and notes asymmetry. A shallow skim with a trowel finds fins and coppering that match known mortar types. A fragment serial groove spacing narrows the caliber. The ground tells a story. Entry angle, propellant energy, pattern density. It points back to the firing point like a finger through smoke. Next is the human terrain. A farmhouse window is gone, but the walls are standing. A stray cow lies in the ditch, still. A boy's bicycle is upright under a shed roof dusted in ash. The camera records everything. Civilian damage gets its own grid, its own photographs, its own line in the log. The team tags a safe lane for the medic to sweep for survivors and for unexploded ordnance that often sleeps shallow after soft ground impacts. Comms replay the fire mission. Time of call. Corrections transmitted. Gun line response. Shell flight times match the impact spread to within a breath. A single round landed short of the intended box. The map receives a small black cross. No friendly position sat within that square, but the reminder lands heavier than steel. Margins are thin in woods where sound rolls and bearings drift. Back at the gun positions, the earth shows their rush. Baseplate scars. 2 drag lines toward a cart path. Spent charge bags buried in a shallow pit. The team plots the grid and estimates how long the enemy stayed based on heat fading from a discarded tube clamp. A drone passes low and slow. It catches wool tracks that cut north into a thicket where a small creek can hide sound and heat. Numbers gather like rain. Crater count. Fragment density per square meter. Mean point of impact. Deviation from aim. A quick model predicts probable crew skill and rate of fire. The picture hardens. A 3-man team. 2 firing pauses. 1 displacement after counterfire began. They will likely return within the night if they think the lane is still open. Lessons begin as a checklist, not a sermon. Observation post was 10 meters 2 exposed to a dead ground that masked 1 lane of approach. Sound ranging arrays need recalibration after the storm that rattled the stakes loose. The map board will get a boulder symbol for civilian clusters, so the eye cannot skip it under stress. The call for fire script will include a mandatory confirm of danger close, even when fatigue hangs on the tongue. Night drifts in. The forest exhales. The team tapes over glint on buckles and trims the lane with quiet hands. Reports travel back along the wire. A mortar hunt is a cycle, not an event. Silence is not safety. Silence is the space in which the next decision is made, and the next correction saves a life. Dawn leaks into the tree line like a slow flare. The ground is colder now, harder, scored with fresh craters and torn roots. The first task is simple and brutal. Count who is standing, who is silent, who might still answer. Medics move first, heads low, marking casings with tape, checking for unexploded ordnance that could turn a rescue into a funeral. The smell is cordite, wet soil, oil. Every breath tastes like metal. The line reformulates itself under the pale light. Range cards are updated with shaky pencils. New sectors of fire are assigned. The squad leaders speak in low, even tones, not to soothe but to stabilize. No one wastes words. Radios crackle with clipped reports. Grid squares, crater diameters, probable tube caliber, charge estimates. The hunt of the night is reduced to data points on a damp map board. Engineers step into the holes like surveyors of a ruined city. Crater analysis yields direction and elevation. Shallow lips suggest low charge. Eccentric spall marks hint at a canted baseplate. A shard of fin is bagged, labeled logged. The map gains arrows that point back through the woods to where the mortar crew likely fled, dragging their tube toward another patch of cover. The guns are quiet for now, and that quiet is louder than the night. It lets in everything that was pushed aside. Fear, anger, the throb in the wrist bruised by recoil. The medic's shirt stiff with drying blood. A private stares at a shattered canteen and recalculates the distance he crawled in the dark, measuring survival in yards. Command wants proof that the counterfire mattered. Battle damage assessment goes out in a flat voice. 1 firing point suppressed, 1 bunker scorched, 2 heat signatures fading on the thermal drone. Not victory, not safety. A marginal shift, barely visible, yet real enough to move a line on the map by the width of a finger. By full morning the ritual is complete. Weapons cleaned. Antennas retuned. OP shifted 30 meters to a knoll with better defilade. The lesson is written in the ground itself. They learn where sound pools, where smoke clings, where a false shadow can be a sightline trap. The day will conceal the next ambush differently than the night. The mortar crew will change their rhythm. So will the hunters. The line holds, altered, tightened, alive.